Are the correction problems over or
Yes,
still?
sir. People are joining. Yes, sir. Shall we start? Yeah.
Yeah, whenever you are
Sir.
ready, please.
Okay, sir. Yeah. So next session, I think all the participants have joined. So next session we have by Dr. Aravind PV. He's a professor and chair of energy conversion, University of Groningen. He has about Professor Aravind PV. He is the professor and chair of energy conversion, University of Groningen, and he did his MSc thesis research in the section ETTU dealt on topic generation electricity and heat using biomass gasification, solid oxide fuel cells, and microturbines, and received his MSc from University of Oldenburg, Germany. He then continued his PhD work at the same section, TU Delft, on the same topic. Later, he defended his PhD thesis titled High Efficiency Energy Systems Based on Biomass Gasifiers, SOFC, with Ni bar GDC, anodes and gas turbines at TU Delft. Since then, he has been involved in the supervision of research activities related to the development of fuel cell system with a special focus on gasifier SOFC integrated systems. He runs a laboratory for hydrogen and fuel cell systems and supervises several PhD students and postdoctoral researchers. He teaches course on hydrogen, fuel cell systems, and thermodynamics of energy conversion. So he held the positions such as Director of Hydrogen Economy, Co-Optel School, Groningen University, lead Natural-Based Negative Emissions Program of TU Delft, then Hydrogen Advisor for Agency for New and Renewable Energy Research and Technology, ANERT, Government of Kerala, India. And he held as advisor, Center of Excellence in Energy Environment, Kannur, Government Engineering College, Kerala Technological University. Also, he held as position as chairman, Know-How Foundation. It is a continuation of educational activities from EU Project Know-How, which is coordinated on energy and environmental supporting the negative emissions partnership in India. Also, he served as editor, Frontiers in Energy Research Special Issue on Negative Emission Technologies, and also act as review of the editor of Frontiers of Energy Research. He is a member of International Advisory Board, International Journal of Renewable Energy and Development, and he is the chairman, Department Advisory Board of SCT College of Engineering, Kerala Technological University. So I welcome Dr. P.V. Aravind to this session.
Thanks a lot. Many thanks once again. So we are starting a bit early, 3 minutes early. So I also just would like to know how we should plan this session, because I think I should present the slides, but also there should be enough time for the discussions. So is it fine if I plan to present my slides between 6:30 and 7:45, leaving last 15 minutes for discussions, or should it be 20 minutes or 10 minutes should be sufficient? Any suggestion from the organizers?
Anything is fine, sir. It's your choice. No issues.
Okay, so I will try to keep it till 7:45, and if there are questions, then I'll probably plan 15 minutes to answer the questions, and if there are no questions, probably I will just add on to I'll probably go back to one of the slides, maybe explain a bit further, especially if there is any interest.
Yes.
So that's I hope that's an acceptable plan. And then I would like to leave at 8 o'clock because I have my next meeting starting at 8 o'clock. So at sharp 8, I would like to wind up. So the talk today, I will primarily talk about hydrogen, but also I will talk about hydrogen and its relevance in carbon neutrality or negative emission scenarios, with a special focus on the international opportunities. But please keep in mind that these slides are only for the participants. So please do not record it and share on the web or to others. So this is because some of the slides are prepared by others, and and some maybe the confidential information. So I just want to make sure that this is only for the participants of this event. And secondly, these days I actually get quite a lot of invitations, and very often the story is the same, and from different angles, because I think I always want to present the core messages rather than the details of one of the activities in our group. So some of you might actually find, especially if you have attended my presentations before, some of you might find that I'm repeating. But what I will do is that I will just try to make sure that latest information, latest developments are shared on the topics presented in the slides. So there will probably something new always. So my apologies if you find it too much. Say if you find too much repetition. I hope that's not the case. Anyway, I'm just happy to share with you all the importance of energy transition, with hydrogen playing probably an important role, and the way how it could contribute to carbon neutrality, negative emissions, and in a wider sense, stabilizing the Earth's climate. So let's just look at where it's all coming from. Well, of course, we all know that we need to build climate resilience. There's no question. And one approach is to make sure that we replace our fossil fuel systems, which emit quite a lot of CO2, with probably renewable energy sources. But that's not the only approach, but that's an important step. And this is becoming a serious business. So a couple of decades ago, we used to have very small renewable energy system here and there, a solar panel, a smaller wind system. But last 2 decades, that started changing. Larger systems started coming. The second wave started. But now what we have is a third wave, where we have very large-scale installation of renewable energy systems taking place. Sometimes it's actually maybe with 1,000 megawatt solar power plant, but sometimes it's also with many solar rooftop systems coming up in a city. Again, probably adding up to say 100 megawatt plus. So this transition is becoming important, and this is a major change, and the society still need to be fully prepared for that. And well, in that preparation, looking at long-term storage is important. So that's where hydrogen is also probably going to play a role. Well, so it's clear that large-scale renewable energy implementation is taking place, but is that affordable? So that's another important question. And luckily, renewable energy prices are coming down. So, well, this is an example. This is an old slide as well, so I don't want to claim that this is really the most recent development. But still, what is interesting to see is that we could get renewable energy for, say, 2 cents or 2 rupees per kilowatt hour. And now, if you look at what is its relevance, if you are, well, let's forget about electricity. We know that probably we are paying more for the electricity we use. But also, if you really look at the heat we use, so if you use LPG or any carbonaceous fuel, 100 rupees plus per kilogram, and we get close to say 40 megajoule plus, and with some sort of an efficiency of 50 to 60% in many cases, and then it's around 24 megajoules. And 1 megajoule of 1 kilowatt hour is 3.6 megajoules. And if we have somewhere between 8 to 10 units of electricity, that could potentially replace even 1 kilogram of fossil fuels in many applications, meaning and it's an opportunity to save money as well. So to create wealth while attempting to do something that also helps to build climate resilience. So this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for engineers. This is an opportunity for technicians. This is an opportunity for businessmen. And well, we see that the opportunity is there, but there are also challenges. So if you look at that solar energy is cheap, but it's not available whenever it is needed. So one moment, I have an extremely important call coming. Just send me a message. So we might have to store this energy to use whenever this is needed. And this could actually still be expensive. So day-night storage with batteries need not be very expensive, but still it's expensive. But if you think of seasonal storage, so if you go for day-night storage, we might need just one battery. And daytime we charge it, evening we use it, this next day we use the same. And we continue with this, and with one battery, year-round, we could actually meet all the requirements. But if you look at seasonal storage, I can easily give an example of Europe, which is a bit easier to understand, because in winter, there is not much sunshine, and in summer, there's a lot of sunshine. You might have to produce energy and store it for winter. And if you do it with batteries, first summer day you charge a battery, first winter day you use that. The second summer day you charge a second battery to keep it for, say, 1st of July, you charge a battery, use it on 1st of February. 2nd of July, you charge another battery, use it on 2nd of February. And if you really need to meet all the energy requirements for the winter period, where there is not much sunshine, you might need 100 batteries. And what you have to pay for if you're only going for day-night storage with one battery, that's enough for the whole year. Or if you use batteries for long-term storage, you might need, say, 100 batteries. And that's going to be very, very expensive. So one option is to look at, say, a fuel that could be produced using the same set of electrodes, which could be used on 1st of July, 2nd of July, 3rd of July. So if you have an electrolyzer, a bit similar to battery as an electrochemical system, the electrodes could actually, and the electrolyte could be repeatedly used. So 1st of July, you produce maybe hydrogen, 2nd of July, and hydrogen is stored somewhere. The same electrode you can use the 2nd day, 3rd day. So you just need one pair of electrodes and an electrolyte. So that is an opportunity also to engineer affordable systems. And I hope this is reasonably clear, and the speed of presentation is also reasonably clear. I don't have to either speed up or slow down much. But anyway, if I have to, please always send me a message, either through the chat window, or even organizers have my WhatsApp contact. It's also possible to just call me. But I hope it's a reasonable pace. Anyway, so if you have to store, then we have to look at different options, and certainly electrolysis to produce hydrogen is one. So, and it is said that. So now let us look at how much electricity is needed and how much we have to pay for that electricity to produce, say, 1 kilogram of hydrogen. And to start with, say, calorific value is much higher for hydrogen, 3 times when compared to, roughly 3 times when compared to present day fuels, and fossil fuels we buy these days. So it's, if you have say 3 times the energy, the calorific value, then we can also pay 3 times still while paying the same amount for the energy services. Am I audible now? There is no disturbance in connection, right? Hello?
You are audible.
Okay. Yeah. So now, if you look at one roughly what is needed to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen is close to say 50 units of electricity. And if you use close to say 50 units of electricity, and if you use solar electricity at 2 rupees per kilowatt hour, this is around 100 rupees for the energy, solar energy that's needed for producing hydrogen. And the wider assumption is that maybe you have to add 50% more for the investment costs involved in producing hydrogen. And so that means we could actually get hydrogen for say 150 rupees plus. And hydrogen could be produced locally and could also be used locally. And the electrolyzers are sufficient, say at small power levels, there are sufficient as large power level systems. So, and also think of very localized small scale hydrogen production and consumption systems. And then, well, 150 rupees, maybe if it is 200 rupees, still what we have to keep in mind is that so energy content is 3 times. And if you use fuel cells, even efficiency is much higher. So we might actually be able to end up paying much less for the energy services we need. So this is also an opportunity for wealth generation, in addition to an opportunity for building up climate resilience. So, hydrogen it's possible to produce hydrogen with electrolysis, but it's also possible to produce hydrogen from biomass, many different ways. For example, you can produce biogas and reform the biogas, such as of now, if you look at hydrogen, all the hydrogen required in the world market is produced by reforming natural gas. So natural gas is mostly methane. Biogas is mostly methane, but if you take out the CO2, bio-CNG is nearly completely methane. And if you reform it, you can produce hydrogen. Or you can gasify biomass, you can syngas, and then water gas shift reaction and separation of hydrogen is another option. But again, the general assumption is that based on the calculations, the hydrogen cost is not going to be much higher. So biomass is also locally available. That means it might also be possible to think of hydrogen production locally again using such sources. Now, if you look at this is an example in Netherlands. So now we talk about hydrogen and international opportunities. This is a slide which actually brings in the international perspective. So again, I want to use a Dutch example. The numbers are indicative, need not be exactly correct. These are also a bit odd slides, but I think still the slide is sufficient to convey the message. Now, if you look at solar electricity in Netherlands, 400 kilowatt, 100 units, you pay 5 to 9 euros, 5 cents plus per kilowatt hour. Now, this is solar electricity, but only available when there is sunshine. Now, imagine that in North Africa, in Sahara Desert, hydrogen is produced. So there, of course, here the assumption is a bit optimistic, 1 cent per kilowatt hour. If you have already 2 cents per kilowatt hour with solar energy, if the production is really fully automated, large-scale production starts, and if the investment costs in production equipment are all sort of paid back, then if you can assume say 1 kilowatt hour, 1 cent per kilowatt hour or 1 rupee per kilowatt hour, you produce hydrogen and transport hydrogen, and the costs are not extremely high when compared to production, could be in the same range. And then you use a highly efficient, say close to 60% efficiency fuel cell system to convert or produce electricity using this hydrogen. And then the rough calculations, back of the envelope calculations, indicate that the price of electricity could also be again 5 cents to 9 cents. So now you might wonder that, okay, you have a solar rooftop, you get electricity for 5 to 9 cents, and you have this complicated system with solar cells and hydrogen production, and you still end up getting something only 5 to 9 €5 to €9 for 100 kilowatt hours. Is there any advantage? This could be a question coming to many. But now the difference is what we have on the top is electricity available only when there is sunshine, and what we have the bottom part of the slide shows electricity more or less at the same cost, but available throughout the year whenever it's needed. That's an important change. And hydrogen or a carryable fuel actually facilitate this. That's the importance of hydrogen or a hydrogen-like fuel, maybe ammonia, maybe who knows, synthetic methane, maybe methanol. That's something which engineers and researchers are still trying to really understand and identify. Probably it's all going to be a mix in the future. Some applications it might be hydrogen, some applications it might be ammonia, some applications it might be methanol, some applications it might be DME. So, but that's something which world is trying to figure out, world is trying to understand. So research is needed. So research also always needs manpower. So those who are getting trained in these knowledge lines, I don't think it will be difficult for them to get employed and to start contributing and benefiting from their contributions. So what I said, hydrogen is an option. You could think of producing hydrogen, transporting hydrogen, but still hydrogen is a very small molecule. It could leak easily. So engineering solutions have to be found, and its volumetric density is also not very high. So that's also a problem in transporting. So maybe another option is to use this hydrogen, using nitrogen, which is easily available, to produce ammonia and then ship this ammonia to wherever it is needed. So you can think of producing ammonia in, say, southern tip of India, and maybe using the Virginia port that's coming up for exporting this to other places in the world. That's an option. And this also could, for a country like India, with a huge, with the trade deficit and energy import contributing to that trade deficit, this might also be an opportunity, to bring down the costs involved in energy import and start maybe even earning from energy exports. So there are also such opportunities probably coming up or starting to appear. Now, with all this, well, hydrogen is certainly now becoming or seen as an important energy carrier. And Groningen in Netherlands is actually at the forefront of this transition. And why? There are reasons. So Groningen is the largest natural gas field in Europe. By the way, is the speed reasonable? Should I go slow? Should I go fast? Any suggestions to change? If that's the case, just please type in using the chat window. Otherwise, I will just continue at this pace. Is it all fine?
It's okay, sir.
Okay. So I just continue like this, right?
Okay, sir. Okay.
So Groningen is the largest natural, or used to be the largest natural gas field in Europe, where the natural gas production is actually completely stopped, and that is largely because small-scale earthquakes affecting the buildings. Nobody's seriously getting hurt or killed, but still houses are damaged. buildings are damaged. So Groningen in North Netherlands is actually planning to stop natural gas production. And there are several thousand professionals. The energy infrastructure is there. And well, for the energy economy to continue, if natural gas production is stopped, there should be alternatives. And one such alternative that's actually seriously looked at is hydrogen. And why? Because Groningen is close to North Sea, and North Sea wind, offshore wind potential is well known. And if you also add a bit of floating solar, it actually could quite easily go around 300 gigawatt plus minus whatever. Which means Groningen could be the first landing point for this renewable energy for the mainland Europe, in addition to local use and use in Netherlands. This energy could be made available to the rest, to the neighboring countries, if hydrogen is produced using this electricity, and if the natural gas infrastructure is repurposed, if the pipelines are repurposed for hydrogen transport, and if there are enough hydrogen storage opportunities. Luckily, there are, especially with salt caverns in North Netherlands, capable of storing hydrogen in large scale. And if it is all organized, the energy economy with tens of thousands of professionals working could continue. So this is a serious opportunity, and especially if hydrogen is becoming affordable in the near future, why not? So that's why hydrogen is taken very seriously in the North Netherlands. Now, so this resulted in the first hydrogen valley of Europe, which also was selected as a hydrogen valley of the year of 2022. I guess when they started selecting such valleys as a valley of the year award. So started, which means it is seen as a major initiative. And Hydrogen Valley, what is a Hydrogen Valley? A Hydrogen Valley is a full hydrogen ecosystem in a well-defined region, geography, where we have hydrogen production to utilization in many different ways, all well organized. Now, this is not the real hydrogen opportunities in Groningen, because it's all about using offshore wind energy, producing very large scale, say, hydrogen production, and then transporting this hydrogen to other countries for energy purpose, for also industrial purposes. Whereas the valley is a really localized one. But the valley helps the region to understand this technology and its implementation, how to produce hydrogen and how to use it, and how to store it, how to transport it, which all will be key in designing the system for transnational purposes. You should know how these systems work. You should know where to invest, where not to invest, what technologies to be selected. For all this, the valley helps. So that's why the first hydrogen valley in Europe started in North Netherlands, in Groningen. Now, but now there are close to 100 valleys coming up across the globe. There are 4 valleys coming up in India, and these 4 valleys were selected by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, based on a competition. And luckily, Kerala is one of the 4 valleys selected. So these valley activities will be based around Cochin to Trivandrum, and the other 4 valleys selected in India by Department of Science and Technology are Jodhpur Valley in Rajasthan and Pune Valley in Maharashtra and Orissa Hydrogen Valley. These are the 4 valleys selected in India. And close to, as I explained, close to 100 valleys are now coming up across the globe. So it's taken seriously by many. Well, to repeat, what is a valley? It's a full hydrogen ecosystem that's coming up in a well-defined geography region. So that's here in this case in North Netherlands, where we have different ways of hydrogen production, meaning electrolyzers, different types of electrolyzers, and different ways of hydrogen utilization. There are buses, there are cars, there are trucks, there are companies starting to use, there are houses being built. So that's the whole hydrogen valley that is coming up in the Netherlands, in the North Netherlands. And to repeat, this is one of the 100 valleys, maybe 100 plus valleys, while Kerala is one of the 4 Department of Science and Technology supported valleys in India. So Andhra Pradesh probably, I think, recently came up with their own valley announcement. And I'm not surprised that if many other state governments will come up with their own valley announcements, and that might be happening, or I'm also involved in some such discussions. So I know that there are states where there is interest. But then it's all about a locally contained ecosystem to develop to make sure that, well, these local systems also should be sustainable in the long run, because if you look at solar photovoltaic systems, you can have very large scale power plants, you can also have small scale systems. Now, if you look at solar thermal systems, that's not very easily possible, just because solar thermal, any thermal system, a steam power plant, to have reasonable efficiency, you probably need hundreds of megawatts or tens of megawatts. And that actually means you cannot start with small scale investments. Whereas in hydrogen systems, an electrolyzer, whether large or small, will probably have a bit similar efficiency, which means you can actually think of, similar to rooftop solar systems, you can also think of small scale hydrogen production systems and utilization programs. So it's important that while we are looking for international opportunities, even localized opportunities should be assessed very carefully, and the experience should be developed for implementing such programs also in large numbers. So that's also a purpose expected from these hydrogen valleys. So, what we could do as academics to support such a transition is to make sure that there is sufficient knowledge developed, and this knowledge is available to all the parties, all the organizations involved in such a transition. Is there a bit of a noise, background noise? Hello? Is there a bit of background noise? Okay. Now I think it went off. Is it clear now? Hello? Could somebody say something? If it is clear, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Now, Hydrogen Valley campus. So Hydrogen Valley Campus Europe is such an initiative with the University of Groningen playing an important role. So what is Hydrogen Valley Campus Europe? This is an organization where we have multiple parties involved. So we have the university, we have Hansa University of Applied Science, where undergraduate education is very important, and technician training schools. But if such a transition to take place, I think it's also very important to have engineers, but also technicians are necessary. So you need to have full-fledged training system to be implemented, to be commissioned, and that needs, it's a new technology. So if you go to one of the IITs in Kerala, you may not find hydrogen systems there. But it's important that these training programs also start up for technicians, maybe at IITs or maybe at an ITTs, ITIs or similar institutions. So it's important to build up such partnerships. Now, Hydrogen Valley Campus Europe helps us to connect the university, to connect with the industry, to the society, to the different players, to make sure that the full knowledge ecosystem is developed. and the University of Groningen is playing an important role in that. And also, as the director of hydrogen economy for the university, I am also involved in it. But if you look at such a transition, most of you are engineers, and we might think that it's sufficient to have engineering knowledge to bring in such a transition. But if you want to bring this fast enough, then it's very clear that engineering knowledge alone is not sufficient. Rules and regulations have to be changed. So law department of the university is playing a role. Some of these technologies are becoming affordable quickly, means economists are needed to identify such technologies. And whether you are going to have large-scale hydrogen production and then store piping systems, or small-scale distributed production, these kind of questions have to be answered. So the Faculty of Spatial Sciences is involved. So different, even psychology, hydrogen. Some people are actually scared of hydrogen because we are all, well, there's a general feeling that hydrogen is explosive, so one has to be very careful. So what is so the acceptance? So how to what extent the society is willing to accept such a technology change? Even psychologists are involved in such studies, and their observations, the observations they develop, are actually also brought into, say, mathematical equations to have digital twins, etc., or appropriate control systems for these systems which are being considered. So you need to have all knowledge lines working together for supporting such a transition. So the Hydrogen Valley campus is actually for such a community. So it's not only for engineers and scientists, but also for economists, for lawyers, for psychologists, all to work together to make sure that there's enough knowledge to support such a transition. So Hydrogen Valley campus is coming up. It is expected to be fully announced, well formalized by the end of this year. You could see that several locations, facilities will be spread over in many places on the campus. Top left, you find actually my own office building where we also have hydrogen laboratories. Bottom left, we have an industry building. DNV's office is there. They actually do testing for industry. Bottom right, we see an airport which actually has hydrogen ambitions. Top right entrance is a facility where energy systems needed for a transition are tested in large scale and even demonstrated. So it's also actually on our campus. So, but from the University of Applied Science, where Hansa University of Applied Science, the teaching is very important, as I mentioned before. But we are all working together to make sure that all these facilities are made best use of to bring in hydrogen knowledge required for supporting such a transition. And it's all, so things have started several years ago. What we already have, for example, an example is Hydro Hub. It's a system, it's called now megawatt scale hydrogen megawatt scale test center, but it's not really fully megawatt scale yet. There are two electrolyzers, 250 kilowatt. One is an alkaline electrolyzer, which actually has produced hydrogen already, and a PEM electrolyzer being commissioned. And well, solid oxide electrolyzers are also probably to be installed there in the near future. So it's sub-megawatt scale test stations for electrolyzers, and also innovation hub for hydrogen technologies. Industry is involved. And then there's PhD research. The test engineer of this facility is actually a PhD student of mine. And then all types of electrolyzers, etc., are to be demonstrated there, tested there, and this testing to be carried out by the industry with academia's involvement, so that whatever we know, the knowledge is well organized, so that others also could make use of it in taking proper decisions. So this is one of the first units we had, and from that we are actually getting into very large scale systems, also using large funding opportunities that's coming up in the country. So Groene van Mogen is close to €1 billion, several hundred million euro initiative for hydrogen research, starting from basic research to technology demonstration to manpower development, etc. For a small country like Netherlands, this is a serious initiative. And the population of Netherlands is half the population of Kerala. And then if you think of, say, 1 billion, close to, in total knowledge at different levels, investment, that's a major investment. And it's a serious step in preparing for such a transition. And using this money, so we talked about, say, 250 kilowatt electrolyzers and a megawatt scale or sub-megawatt scale test center, which is already existing. But we are not stopping there. We are also making for the plans for the future. So in a nearby city, not far away, MN. So as you have seen, that even Hydrogen Valley Campus Europe is a distributed facility. In MN, up to say 10 megawatts, several megawatt level electrolyzer testing is coming up, again with the university also involved. And such testing is needed for different purposes. If you have a company and you want to buy a hydrogen which is sort of tested and certified, this also could be used as a place to test such systems. Or if you are a developer of a new electrolyzer where you really want to have, say, large-scale systems to be tested, this also could be hired. We can also do research with the data we get, for example, coming in with appropriate say, control systems or understanding the degradation behavior, etc., etc. So these are all multi-purpose systems. And it's also probably unique to see a large number of such systems coming up with access to academia, so that we could also contribute to the knowledge development in such a small region. Now, Netherlands, Groningen is certainly interesting, and we actually have already started looking at the say, international perspective and the wider opportunities. But what we have to keep in mind is that there are also other important initiatives in the Netherlands. For example, Rotterdam. Rotterdam is sort of an energy port of Europe, where a lot of energy import to countries like Germany, etc., is probably through Rotterdam port. And if hydrogen is coming up as the next generation fuel, the port really would like to be prepared. And that's why they're also involving in hydrogen transition activities. And it's all about, say, Europe will produce a lot of hydrogen that's needed for Europe, but also import a lot of hydrogen from other places. It could be from South America, it could be from America, it could be from Africa, it could be from India even. So then you need a port, and this Rotterdam port is actually trying to get ready to position itself as an interesting opportunity if you think of hydrogen important to Europe, which means the port, storage facilities, pipelines to be connected for taking hydrogen that's coming to the port, maybe chemical industry to be developed that could use the hydrogen that's coming to the port as a feedstock. So that's actually another similar initiative, similar to North Netherlands and Groningen. Rotterdam is another hydrogen initiative in Netherlands, which is also which has international importance. So my talk is all about hydrogen, and it's a global perspective, right? So I started with the changes in Netherlands and the way Netherlands is looking at, but as a global opportunity. So that already opens up the presentation. Now there are serious agreements coming up between countries. So this is between Oman and Netherlands. The Dutch king is involved, I think. Also from Oman, and the technologists are involved. So this is a first agreement recently signed for world's first liquid hydrogen import corridor between Oman, Netherlands, and Germany. So which actually means, in one of my first slides, you have seen that if hydrogen is produced elsewhere, and if it is transported to Europe for using whenever it's needed, and if you have a fuel cell to produce electricity, using that fuel with reasonably high efficiency, we might actually end up having electricity at the same price that you have to pay for a fuel solar cell, which is producing electricity only when there is sunshine. So, which needs hydrogen import? Hydrogen import actually might help to provide electricity at the same price, but anytime throughout the year, which actually means there should be import corridors to Netherlands, to Europe, and agreements to be in place and the systems to be in place for such transport, either way, start taking place. So this is one of the agreements recently signed for an extremely interesting project along these lines. Now, Oman and Netherlands, of course, it's interesting, but what's there for India? India is also thinking of with support from Europe to develop something called IMEC corridor, India, Middle East, Europe corridor, where energy transport, including hydrogen transport, is also considered. And this might help to cut down the transport time, the shipping time from India to Europe, maybe by 40%. So this is again an interesting initiative for Indian economy, and this is taken up at the highest levels of the government here. But also, I think there is a special envoy appointed by the French president for this program, and so there is also an international partnership that is shaping up. And hydrogen is considered as something to be carried, transported, and so there are pipelines, there are all means of transport all being studied. So that's an ongoing activity. So it's not only about a country in the region to Netherlands, but also probably India to Europe, which also might have certain India to Netherlands angle if the discussions will happen and get concluded successfully. But that's all things happening, hopefully happening now or in the near future. Now, if India is seriously looking at such opportunities, which is the case, which is also support, for example, the highest levels, the government officials, again, knowledge development is important. And for such a technology, knowledge partnership is important. So Department of Science and Technology, Government of India has announced, say, up to 30 fellowships, Hydrogen Valley fellowships per year for students and researchers from India for double doctorate degree, joint supervision from both universities, and postdoctoral fellows, and including, say, faculty exchange. So 5 faculty exchange fellowships, 10 postdoctoral fellowships, 15 PhD fellowships, all adding to 30 fellowships per year. I think if it starts well and if it is seen as beneficial, this might also probably continue for a couple of years to come at least. So many of you might actually find this interesting, this opportunities interest. So here, if you have a double doctorate, what is expected is that a fellowship candidate spend up to 2 years in India, connected to an Indian university or a research institute, and try to spend 2 years in Netherlands to involve in academic hydrogen research there. But also, while involving in hydrogen research, there is an organization called New Energy Coalition. It's a real triple helix organization. Their office is in the same building where I have my laboratory. And they have multiple strands. They work with the government, they work with academia, they work with the industry. So they bring all together. Now, that means such an organization organizes several short talks, site visits, industry training programs, etc., etc. So the fellows who are coming to do research to Groningen, in addition to attending the knowledge programs, they might also benefit from the exposure they get from the Hydrogen Valley, because many of the Hydrogen Valleys coming up in India or other places in the world might also have, in many cases, or at least in some cases, similar problems. And then you need to know how to solve these problems to have such a transition smoothly taking place. Now, this is all about a lot about hydrogen and the general hydrogen developments in Netherlands and how it is becoming a global movement. And now I actually want to go to the second part of my presentation. I will have 3 parts for my presentation. Second part, I will actually explain a bit about the work we have been doing on solid oxide fuel cells, and then gasifier fuel cell integration, and even negative emission power production opportunities. And then maybe I will expand it to a bit of negative emission hydrogen production opportunities. And then about studies about how to use such an opportunity, how to make use of such an opportunity in Indian context. So once again, the speed of presentation, everything is okay? Should I be a bit more faster, or should I slow down? Nothing, right? If you
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay, fine, thank you. So just continue like this. Now we talk a bit about my own labs. So yeah, key research area. It's not the only focus anymore. We work a lot on solid oxide cells, but also reversible solid oxide cells, meaning the same fuel cell could actually act as an electrolyzer, hopefully. So and in addition to hydrogen, you could also use hydrogen and carbon monoxide as a fuel. And what you can see here is on the right hand, on the left hand side, is this cursor visible? Is the cursor visible, or it's only
Yes,
visible
sir,
to me?
yes, sir.
Okay, if it's visible to all, that's good. So you have fuel getting to the fuel chamber, and oxide ions traveling from the air electrode through the electrolyte to the fuel electrode. Meaning, air is oxygen and nitrogen mostly. Oxygen goes across the electrolyte, and nitrogen is separated. And now here you have hydrogen and carbon monoxide, and if it is electrochemically oxidized, you will get H2O and CO2. And if you cool it down, water is condensed, you only have CO2, mostly CO2. And you could store the CO2. Oh, the electricity, we have an electricity problem. Am I audible now? Hello? Hello?
Yes, yes, audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, audible, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now the connection is back. Now, what we do in our laboratory, we look at solid oxide cells at different levels, just looking at pattern electrodes to symmetric electrodes to full cells to stacks to be tested for different purposes in different ways. But always connected to say a practical application. We don't look a lot about developing new materials, but rather than developing new applications in a well-supported way. So now, if you do this, if you understand how the cells work and how the gas compositions affect the cell performance, you could also start getting the electrochemical knowledge expanded. You could actually develop better equations that describe the electrochemical fuel oxidation. And now you can do it with pattern electrodes, point electrodes, etc., where the reactions take place at triple phase boundaries. I don't think I have time enough to have a very detailed lecture on all this, but you actually come up with cells where you can really understand where this reaction takes place and how and why. And if you know that, you can probably get this electrochemistry, the understanding you develop in electrochemistry to be included in computational fluid dynamics studies with better rate equations, which will help you to understand the behavior of the flow feed, which has an influence on the cell lifespan, the efficiencies you get, etc. So you can quite quickly use experimental data to come up with models that helps to understand the cells and systems. And if you develop such a knowledge, you could also look at contaminants. So if you have contaminants so if you have hydrogen from pure water, maybe it's not a problem. But if you take it through pipes, you might already have contaminants coming from the pipes. But if you look at biomass to produce hydrogen or hydrogen fuel, hydrogen plus carbon monoxide is a fuel for a solid oxide fuel cell you have seen, then you need to know what are the limits of the contaminants, and then And if you know those limits, you could actually design gas cleaning and gas processing systems for achieving those limits. So it's important to have electrochemical studies detailed with the real gas compositions and the contaminants, which we have done extensively with my own PhD work, but many of my PhD students are continuing their research activities in those lines. If you do all this, then you know how much contaminants could be there in the gas. So meaning how much you have to clean and how to clean. You can develop the processing systems. And then if you have a gasifier and a fuel cell, you can also integrate a system to have full-fledged gasifier, gas cleaning, solid oxide fuel cell system. We have actually in our laboratory a 4 kilowatt solid oxide fuel cell system. Probably, arguably, my apologies if I'm wrong, first in the world SOC system designed for biomass gasifier integration. So if you use biosyn gas, it would be from biomass. And then if this biosyn gas is used in a fuel cell, because hydrogen and carbon monoxide could be used in solid oxide fuel cells, not in low temperature fuel cells. PEM fuel cells mostly need clean hydrogen, but solid oxide fuel cells, the high temperature fuel cells, could take up a bit more contaminated gas. Then you need to identify, say, how much contaminants they could tolerate. So go for detailed experiments, develop that knowledge, in parallel develop the cleaning units, and select the gasifiers to be connected. So yeah, we had conventional gasifiers to crazy systems based on, say, human waste, fecal matter to be used as a fuel. So we look at all these options. But of course, the woody biomass to electricity is quite easy. But you can also look at a lot of waste streams for producing fuel that could be used in solid oxide fuel cells. But then, okay, electrochemically, it's all possible. You can integrate these systems. But you also know then it's important in future how you're going to operate these systems. Efficiency is important because you don't want to emit a lot of carbon dioxide per unit of electricity you produce. So your efficiency is anyway important. So then you need to look at how to improve these efficiencies. We know that gasification in certain conditions is an endothermic process, and solid oxide fuel cells could actually, in many conditions, could be an exothermic process, and use something like a heat pipe to take heat from solid oxide fuel cells, maybe to facilitate it, even split the fuel cell so that in between two legs, you can actually take out heat. And this heat is transported to a gasification unit so that the endothermic gasification gets heat from the solid oxide fuel cell, which is exothermic, meaning if you organize it all very well, you minimize the entropy production, which might help the system to achieve very high efficiencies. And we have shown that these systems show efficiencies, electrical efficiencies close to 70%. I'm so sorry that you, maybe you're not able to read that. Are you able to? Probably because this text is just in front of it. But anyway, electrical efficiency is up to 70%. How to achieve is also published, for example, in addition to the experiments we have discussed, also from our group. Now, when compared to present-day efficiencies, close to say 40%. 70% efficiency is a significant improvement in the system. And combined to that, now, if you use a reversible fuel cell, the fuel cell could produce power and there's not enough wind and sunshine. And the same system could actually be used in reversible mode as an electrolyzer when there is excess electricity. So this electricity could be used to produce, for example, for producing hydrogen and storage. Meaning you can have ultra high efficiency systems which are bidirectional, which could produce either electricity or hydrogen as a fuel. Now, ultra high efficiency, bidirectional power plants. If it's a bidirectional power plants in the future, if you have a lot of wind turbines and solar systems, your power plants, when there is excess power produced from these systems, you will not use these power plants. You might end up using the power plant only for short periods per year, which actually might increase the cost of electricity produced per So the price per unit, price per kilowatt hour might go up because the investment costs remain the same, but the production, the number of units produced, might come down. So bidirectional nature, the reversibility of these systems will help us to operate these systems throughout the year, making these systems a bit more economically viable. But if you have a gasifier, we all know that gasifier also has a lot of carbon problems. Carbon precipitation is a problem in many cases. But you can also take out this carbon. And if you take out this carbon, you can store it somewhere. And additionally, syngas, if it is used as a fuel, then we have seen that we get CO2 and H2O. And if you cool down H2O, well, if you operate the system accordingly, if you just put syngas as a fuel and the other side air as an oxidant, this is not possible. You need to have a post-combusting system, post-combustor, and then probably oxy-fuel combustion. It's only 10%. Electrochemical oxidation of the fuel in solid oxide fuel cell could be somewhere close to 80 to 90% or 85%. And the rest could be oxidized using a small-scale oxy-fuel combustion device. And if you use biomass as a fuel, biomass has carbon that is coming from atmospheric air when CO2 is absorbed. So if you produce power from this biomass, and whatever CO2 or carbon is stored somewhere, probably maybe with soil carbon, mixing carbon with soil for the soil carbon increase. Soil carbon in countries like India is close to 1%, where in countries like Netherlands, where farming is very important, is between, say, 2 to 4%. So 1% to 2 to 4% increase is quite significant. And that also can actually mean that if you produce power this way, you can actually have a negative emission power plant, meaning you can have an ultra high efficiency, bidirectional, negative emission power plant. Now, instead of producing electricity, you could also think of producing hydrogen, which means you could also produce negative emissions hydrogen. And how to produce hydrogen? Gasification. So biomass is gasified, syngas is produced, and water-gas shift reaction will help to convert the carbon monoxide, whatever, in the gas to CO2 and releasing hydrogen in that sense, and the hydrogen could be used for some whatever purposes. Or you can use catalytic synthesis to produce liquid fuels. DME is quite an interesting fuel. Or gasification is 800 degrees Celsius close to in the presence of an oxidant. Instead of that, you can also just heat, resulting in the flow of gaseous streams, and maybe by oil, a bit of char, which also could be used for soil amendment, etc. So you can also produce hydrogen this way. And there are also simple ways. You go for biogas production, and biogas is maybe 55% CH4 and CO2. Take out the CO2, you get mostly CH4. That's somewhat equivalent to bio-CNG. And then probably reform it and separate out hydrogen used as a fuel and use the CO2 that could be separated for something else. So you can actually have negative emissions hydrogen if the biogas slurry in this process is taken out and added to soil. The same in gasifier if you take out biochar and add to soil. Biogas might be an easier step to start because slurry adding to soil is actually widely known. Whereas carbon addition to soils is something to be still developed and fully understood. So there are different ways to think of hydrogen production for biomass, and when it's organized nicely, it also could be a negative emission fuel because if this hydrogen is used in fuel cells to oxidize hydrogen to produce electricity, in the whole process of production of hydrogen, biomass consumption, because this biomass is taking CO2 from atmospheric air, is also CO2 stored or carbon stored. So this is also an opportunity. And also if you look at what we are chasing in our laboratory is bidirectional, ultra high efficiency, negative emission power plants. So that could be maybe in 10 years or 20 years start coming up. So that's the one of the major research lines. We also have a couple of other research lines in addition to the hydrogen value. So I actually wanted to show that, of course, we have several components needed for a hydrogen valley, such as say solar electricity production. In many cases, it's all becoming cheaper. Maybe wind is becoming cheaper. Maybe biogas is becoming cheaper. But still, to connect all this, you still need well-engineered systems, which means still there is room for engineering research to take place and to happen. And that's something which we hope to continue also in our university. Now, we thought about a system which produces electricity or hydrogen while consuming CO2 from atmospheric air, meaning while consuming carbon from atmospheric air. And the moment you separate biochar and store it in soil, or separate out CO2 that could come out from a hydrogen production unit based on a reformer in anywhere, so you could actually store the CO2 and end up producing negative emissions fuel. So this is an opportunity, and negative emissions, is it that interesting or important? It appears as very important. So what you see here is from the editorial of Nature. Nature is a very well-respected science journal, and they wrote it a couple of years ago in 2018. So what they said was this: the 2015 Paris Agreement gave politicians an answer: negative emissions, technology to reduce the amount of carbon already in the atmosphere. This could help the society to buy some more time to build resilience to climate change. Now, again, they continue to say this in 2018. The IPCC is now working on a report on strategies to keep warming to under 1.5 degrees Celsius. This was in 2018. So this was actually done, which is due to be published later this year, meaning later in 2018. By necessity, those strategies will lean heavily on negative emissions. That's what we have seen possible to achieve while even producing hydrogen as a fuel. Scientists must, so Nature continue to say that scientists must continue to spell out to the policymakers the harsh reality of what this would involve, and in the strongest possible terms. And then the same year came up a joint position paper from senior professors from MIT and Stanford, suggesting, say, combining biological and engineering systems to achieve negative emission system, together with other approaches, in very, very large scale, gigaton level. And but I don't think there were very specific examples given. But it's also an opportunity to really see that, okay, maybe combining, say, biomass which produce plants which produce biomass while atmospheric CO2 is absorbed and sunlight is absorbed, and then producing power from that while storing CO2. So this is an opportunity for very large scale systems for CO2 sequestration. But there were no specific models what to do a system that could be engineered. And we saw such an opportunity in Wayanad partnership. Wayanad is in Kerala, in India, and a small village in Wayanad called Meenangadi also became the best regional carbon neutrality initiative in India, selected by the government of India. So, but it is a farmer-focused program. So it's all about negative emissions. But while achieving negative emissions, we also want to create wealth. If that's an opportunity in climate negotiations, everybody would say, hey, we are going to invest this much in this technology, and we are actually going to sequester carbon, but we are also creating wealth. And countries agree, might actually become a bit more easy. So this is such an opportunity to develop such a program, which could even become, on one hand, helping the farmers to seriously increase income. We hope to have to double the income, and also to achieve carbon neutrality. And there are multiple researchers and institutions active, such as IIT Delhi, NIT Calicut is now, TU Delft, University of Groningen. Again, there is some background noise. I think it's good to. Is it audible to everyone, or it's only to me? Hello?
Audible, sir.
Yeah, if that's the case, if it is the case, probably if it is coming from somebody.
Please mute your mic.
So I think the participants should mute.
94475.
Otherwise, the organizers will be able to see where it's coming from. And you can
Agape, please mute your mic.
Hello, I think it's still there. Huh? Hello, I think organizers can actually mute.
Yes, sir, will. Yes, sir, please continue.
Okay.
It's done.
Okay. So what we do, we look at the coffee program, coffee farms in Wayanad as a starting point. Coffee farms could actually have plants in between coffee plants, other trees, shade trees in between coffee plants. And if you have, so the coffee in India is shade coffee, and that's not the case in many places. And in Wayanad, it's shade Robusta coffee, which is also a bit of a resilient variety. And if you increase or optimize this, the trees in these coffee farms, and if you use, for example, fruit yielding trees like jackfruit or maybe rambutan, whatever, farmers could get extra income, and such shade coffee plantations could produce maybe up to 10 tons of biomass per year. From that, maybe you could think of producing, say, half a ton of hydrogen, and which could actually, say, bring in maybe 1 lakh rupees to these farmers and the communities if they own the whole system to produce hydrogen, which actually means there could be significant income addition to the coffee production from the fruit yielding trees, from the biomass. And then a bit of biochar is used for soil carbon management. It might also help in many cases to minimize the chemical fertilizer consumption. So in many different ways, it could help farmer communities. But if you really engineer those systems, so then you could also bring in agrivoltaics, modern renewable energy systems. You can use remote sensing, etc., for soil carbon measurements or water measurement, moisture measurement, etc. And then look at effective agroforestry system. Shade coffee is a model for agroforestry. And then you bring in modern food industrial practices all together to significantly increase the incomes of the farmers there, all while achieving negative emissions. While taking out, because when the shade trees grow, they also bring in carbon, and if you use this biomass to produce maybe hydrogen, then the carbon could be stored. That's a complicated technology, but instead of that, maybe the leafy biomass could be used for biogas production. Use biogas as a fuel, and the slurry, which is actually used by many as sort of fertilizer replacement, could also be used for soil amendment. So there are easy first steps, but also there could be long-term, complicated, complex technologies to be developed. So that's also where academics could step in and see, okay, where these technologies are developed or how to develop these technologies, and when they are matured enough to replace some of the easier options, which you could start even today. So that's the whole process, but already I think the coffee world is starting to look at this initiative. And Wayanad coffee is normally sold as a cheap filler coffee, but we also have with the tests carried out with the Dutch team first. When they came a couple of years ago, we came to know that the quality could be very high with cupping scores above 80, and then the coffee board also came up with large-scale coffee testing, and the farmers were selected, and they were also sent to World Coffee conferences where people are starting to notice, one, quality of Wayanad Robusta coffee. Second, with the sustainability program around, this is now becoming an interesting choice for the world market. So you could actually see from the left side, Dutch team visit next week to push Wayanad coffee to the world stage. This is in 2022. And on the right side, you can actually see another newspaper report, Wayanad Robusta coffee shines at World of Coffee 2024. So things are changing in many different ways, and we are happy that if this continues. And the academic background, the knowledge background behind all this is also published in an umbrella paper with researchers from Netherlands and Kerala all involved, but also organizations such as IIT Delhi supporting such an initiative. So to repeat, sun coffee, and if you plant shade trees in coffee plantations, and especially if you actually plant trees, fruit yielding trees, income yielding trees, but also that helps with large-scale food production. Jack trees are quite an easy example. You can get 10 tons of jackfruit per hectare, which actually is much more than the rice we can produce per hectare. So it's also a serious candidate assisted food. So look at such societal changes and bring all these together. Biomass, timber could be used for construction, and then that's also one way to store this carbon for next 50 to 100 years. Biofuel is produced, it could be hydrogen, bio-CNG, whatever, slurry or biochar could be used for soil amendment. And if you have the shade coffees, you have additional income from the fruits. And all together, it could help in bringing down the CO2, say taking out close to 10 tons CO2 per hectare of coffee plantations. This is quite an interesting opportunity. And biofuels, okay, these programs are interesting, but also world is starting to look at biofuels a bit differently. This is actually a presentation from a report from Boston Dynamics, where they actually suggest biogas as a shipping fuel option to minimize the emissions. Government of India, Minister Gadkari announcing, hey, India is going to produce hydrogen, and in India, farmers will produce hydrogen. So whatever we propose are also sort of aligned with the government programs. So we could expect support from other organizations. This needs remote sensing research, timber technology, food technology, bioenergy technology, soil management, soil water management, all knowledge coming together. So interdisciplinary research is important. Agrivoltaics, having solar panels in plantations where shade is needed, also could be a new opportunity. We could think of all such opportunities. But these opportunities are not limited to coffee. Kerala, the whole Kerala is probably an agroforest. But we actually have many different types of food-producing trees are all planted together. And if you actually can optimize these systems and also use part of biomass for fuel production and a part of carbon for soil amendment, you can probably think of similar systems with rubbers, cardamom, maybe cashew nut, whatever. So there might be opportunities, and it's quite interesting. And there are also programs starting supporting such initiatives, and our team is always willing and ready to expand. And one moment. So what is the status? There is a company is formed by Kerala government, Kerala Coffee Limited. Science and knowledge activities are supported by this initiative. Selected 500 small and marginal coffee farmers are also involved. And many coffee samples were collected and analyzed and evaluated, tested, and selected farmers were sent abroad. But a knowledge partnership is also built with different universities and coffee board, etc., all playing different roles. And then we can easily expand it to other plantation crops. Again, climate resilience is important. We could achieve climate resilience. Why? For example, if you have increased soil carbon, that will also retain more water. So drought prevention might become easier. And bioenergy could replace fossil fuels, which might actually be more expensive if and when carbon tax comes. So that also helps to build up the resilience. And we can use this bioenergy for electricity production or even hydrogen production. And then this is used also this hydrogen locally. And this could be a long shot, but we can start with bio-CNG production and bio-CNG utilization in cars and vehicles, or even for cooking and whatnot as the first steps. But so there are easier entry opportunities, but there are also opportunities to introduce new technologies. Summing up, hydrogen opportunities are emerging. global connections are important. There are initiatives in India and Kerala which are interesting enough, and academics needs to be prepared for research, for training people, for starting educational programs, and in many different ways. And it's an opportunity definitely for the academia. Thank you. That's all from my side, and I will be available for answering questions for next 15 minutes if there are questions. Are there questions?
You can ask questions or can type in chat box if you have any.
Yeah. Exactly, we have 15 minutes as I planned originally, so I'm happy that I could stick to the time plan. Now, if there are no immediate questions, you can also download this paper. For example, and there are also articles about Kerala, North Northern Hydrogen Valley. There are articles about newspaper articles about the corridor we have discussed, about the coffee program, also the research papers about the coffee program. So there are many different ways to understand more and to decide whether this is something in which you want to intervene and contribute. So I don't see questions coming. So no real questions, right? It's either fully clear or there was nothing clear, but I guess at least it gives glimpses of some of the opportunities, and some of you might actually find these opportunities interesting enough to step in and contribute. And some of the opportunities mentioned, the Hydrogen Valley Fellowships by Department of Science and Technology. This is officially formally announced by the minister. On 5th of June, the program was announced by the Government of India Minister for Science and Technology, and yeah, well, the scholarships might also, the call for applicants might also come out soon, and there are also opportunities for academics and well, there are PhD opportunities, postdoc opportunities, but also academia exchange fellowships for academics. So many of you also find such an opportunity interesting. Okay, so also Kerala Hydrogen Valley activities are starting. There will be.
Sir, can you talk a bit more about Kerala Hydrogen Valley?
Kerala Hydrogen Valley, Kerala Hydrogen Valley activities, probably some of the valley activities are going to start in Cochin. So there might be a hydrogen filling station coming up close to Cochin Airport. There might be hydrogen buses starting. And yeah, well, there are also activities which are relevant. For example, Cochin Metro Boat, a hydrogen version is already built by Cochin Shipyard, but it's actually not going to be used in Kerala. It's built with the Government of India support for Varanasi. But once the technology, once the abilities are all proven, it might also be possible to bring in such boats also for Kerala, but also for a Dutch company, Samskip, based on their order. That the Cochin Shipyard it's not a real valley activity, but it actually all connects to the ecosystem. The first in the world short sea ship based on hydrogen fuel cells is actually being built in Cochin based on the order from a Dutch and Netherlands company called Samskip. So there are many interesting initiatives, but the valley will start with hydrogen filling station, hydrogen buses, and will expand to other applications. And ANERT is the implementing agency for Kerala Hydrogen Valley. Okay, so I understand there is no question. If that's the case, my next meeting is coming up. Maybe it's maybe it is time to wind up. So It's already also late in the evening. So then, if there are no more questions, thanks a lot for this opportunity, and I wish all the best with rest of the program. And well, how to meet you or maybe some other occasion, conferences, who knows. Thank you then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful session. Participants, dear participants, you can fill the feedback form for the session that is posted in chat box as well as in the group. Yeah,
Okay then.
just having questions seen from the participants.
Thank
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the session.
Bye-bye.
Dear participants, the next session will start at 8 p.m. Okay.